The shuttle Busan approached the massive space station slowly, its human crew staring in wonder at the enormous structure ahead. The Galactic Council Station was bigger than any city on Earth, with towers that stretched for kilometers and docking bays that could hold 1,000 ships. Ambassador Lee Min-ho checked his blue diplomatic uniform one more time. His hands were steady, but his heart was racing. This was humanity's first official meeting with the galactic community. Everything had to go perfectly. Nervous? Asked Commander Park Ji-woo from the pilot seat. She was a small woman with quick eyes and steady hands, chosen to lead the human escort ship Incheon. A little, Min-ho admitted. We've waited so long for this moment. Dr. Kim So-young looked up from her tablet, where she had been studying alien biology reports. Remember, 12 different species will be there. Try not to stare too much at the strange ones. The docking process took an hour. When the airlock finally opened, they were greeted by a tall, thin alien with blue skin and 4 arms. Its voice sounded like music when it spoke through the translation device. Welcome, humans. I am Veldar, High Council of the Galactic Council. We have waited many cycles to meet your species. Min-ho bowed politely. The honor is ours. Humanity is ready to join the galactic community. The council chamber was breathtaking. 12 different alien species sat in a perfect circle around a floating platform. Some looked almost human, while others were so strange that So-young had to fight not to stare. There were beings made of crystal, others that looked like living plants, and one that seemed to be made of pure energy. Today we discussed trade routes through the Kepler sector, Veldar announced. The Zephyrian Collective claims the Helix Consortium has broken shipping agreements. What started as a simple discussion quickly became heated. The Zephyrian delegate, a creature that looked like a giant butterfly, accused the Helix representative of stealing cargo. The Helix delegate, covered in scales and speaking in a hissing voice, denied everything. Min-ho watched as the argument grew louder. Other council members joined in, taking sides and making accusations. Minutes passed, then an hour. The humans sat quietly, trying to understand the complex politics. Suddenly, loud alarms began blaring throughout the station. Red lights flashed everywhere. Emergency alert, announced the station's computer voice. Pirate attack on civilian transport Harmony's Dream. 847 passengers in immediate danger. Distance, 12 light minutes. The council members stopped arguing and looked at each other. Veldar called for order. We must form an emergency committee, announced one of the crystal beings. This requires proper discussion. I suggest we schedule a meeting for tomorrow, added the plant-like creature. We need to review all options carefully. Min-ho felt his stomach drop. Tomorrow? People are dying right now. These matters require proper procedures. Veldar said coldly, we cannot simply rush into action without careful planning. But 800 people, Min-ho started, will have to wait for proper council approval. Veldar interrupted. Commander Park stood up suddenly, her chair scraping against the floor. Ji-woo to Incheon. Prep the ship. We're going in. Commander Park, please sit down, Veldar said sharply. You cannot leave without council permission. Park was already walking toward the exit. Watch me. Dr. Kim grabbed her medical bag and followed. I'm coming too. They'll need a doctor. Min-ho looked around the council chamber. The aliens were all staring at him with wide eyes, clearly shocked by a companion's behavior. I apologize for my colleagues, Min-ho said carefully, but we cannot sit here while innocent people die. This is highly irregular, protested the butterfly-like Zephyrian. What if your intervention makes things worse? What if doing nothing makes it worse? Min-ho replied, the Incheon was not a warship. It was a small escort vessel with basic weapons and shields. But Commander Park pushed it to maximum speed, racing toward the distress signal, while the council continued their emergency debate. 23 minutes later, they returned. The council chamber was still discussing proper procedures when the Incheon docked again. Commander Park entered the chamber first, followed by Dr. Kim and dozens of alien survivors from different species. 847 passengers rescued. Park announced simply, the pirates have been captured and handed over to local authorities. The chamber fell completely silent. Every alien representative stared at the humans with expressions ranging from shock to fear. "How?" whispered Veldar. "We saw people in danger, so we helped them," Park replied. It seemed like the obvious thing to do. Minho looked around the chamber and felt a chill run down his spine. The aliens weren't impressed or grateful. They looked terrified. Their large eyes were wide with something that looked like fear, and many were backing away from humans. "The meeting is adjourned," Veldar announced suddenly. "We need time to discuss this development," as the humans were escorted back to their shuttle. Minho couldn't shake the feeling that something had gone very wrong. They had saved hundreds of lives and captured dangerous criminals. So, why did all the aliens look at them like they were monsters? The journey back to human space was quiet. None of them spoke about what had happened, but they all felt it. Humanity's introduction to the galactic community had not gone as planned. They had no idea that their simple act of heroism had just terrified the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. Dr. Yoon Hygiene floated in her research pod above a human colony on Kepler, 438b, watching something that should have been impossible. Below her, humans had built a thriving city inside an active volcano. Steam rose from the lava flows that powered their generators, while children played in Park's car from volcanic rock. This world was classified as uninhabitable. She spoke into her recording device. Surface temperature of 600 degrees. Toxic atmosphere. Constant earthquakes. Yet somehow humans call it home. Hygiene was Ethereal Dominion's best xenopsychologist. For 3 months, she had been studying human colonies throughout neutral space, tried to understand how they accomplished the impossible so easily. Her ship, the Seeker, moved to the next system. Wolf 1061, she was even worse than Kepler, 438b. The entire planet was covered in ice 30 kilometers thick. The surface temperature never rose above minus 200 degrees. No sunlight reached the ground through the frozen atmosphere. But humans lived there too. Hygiene descended through the ice in her diving pod, following the thermal readings her sensors had detected. What she found made her tentacles curl in amazement. Under the ice, humans had built entire cities connected by warm tunnels. They used nuclear reactors to melt the ice and created artificial lakes filled with fish and plants from Earth. "They don't just survive on death worlds," she recorded. "They make death worlds into paradise." The pattern was the same everywhere she looked. On Gliese 667cc, humans had built floating cities in the poisonous clouds. On HD 40307G, they lived underground in vast cave networks, using bacteria to create breathable air. On Kepler 442b, they had somehow learned to live in the radioactive zones near the planet's dying star. Each colony started the same way. A small group of humans would arrive with basic equipment and supplies. Within months, they had established temporary shelters. Within a year, they had permanent settlements. Within 5 years, they had cities that housed millions of beings from dozens of different species. Hygiene docked her ship at Tau Ceti Station, a human trading post built inside a hollowed-out asteroid. The station master was a cheerful human woman named Bei Sujin who greeted every visitor like an old friend. "Welcome to Tau Ceti," Sujin said warmly. "First time visiting a human colony?" "Yes," Hygiene replied carefully. "I am studying your expansion methods." "Oh, you mean how we pick planets?" Sujin laughed. "We just look for places nobody else wants. Cheaper that way, and we like a good challenge." Hygiene watched as Sujin helped a group of Zephyrian refugees find housing. The butterfly-like aliens had been fleeing their homeworld for months, unable to find anyone willing to accept them. Sujin had given them homes, jobs, and citizenship papers within hours of their arrival. "Why do you help them?" Hygiene asked. Sujin looked confused by the question. "Because they need help. Isn't that reason enough?" That evening, Hygiene attended a council meeting between human administrators and representatives from 40 different alien species living in the system. She expected to see the careful negotiations and formal procedures she knew from Galactic Council meetings. Instead, she watched humans solve problems with frightening efficiency. "The Helix delegation needs more living space," announced Mayor Kim Tae-ho. The old mining tunnels in Sector 7 are perfect. We'll have them converted by next week. What about the cost? Asked a crystalline being from the Silicon Collective. No cost, Tejo replied. We have extra space. You need homes. Simple. Hygiene's research became more disturbing as weeks passed. Every human colony followed the same impossible pattern. They arrived at worlds that should have killed them, turned those worlds into garden paradises, then invited everyone else to share their success. But the most frightening discovery came when she studied human psychology. Every other intelligent species in the galaxy had evolved as prey animals. They had developed big brains to hide from predators, to run away from danger, or to negotiate their way out of trouble. Humans were different. They were predators who had learned to use tools and work together. When they saw a problem, they didn't hide or run or negotiate. They attacked it directly until it was solved. On the research station orbiting Proxima Centauri, she interviewed Dr. Lim Jae-sung, a human terraforming expert. How do you make dead worlds livable so quickly? She asked. We don't see them as dead worlds, Lim explained. We see them as projects. Every problem has a solution. You just have to be creative. But what if the solution is dangerous? Lim shrugged. Then we make it safer. Humans have been turning dangerous things into useful things for thousands of years. Fire, electricity, nuclear power, genetic engineering. Danger just means you have to be more careful. Hygiene realized with growing horror that humans didn't see obstacles the way other species did. Where others saw impossible barriers, humans saw interesting puzzles. Where others saw deadly threats, humans saw opportunities to grow stronger. Worse still, they formed emotional bonds with other species instantly. She had watched human soldiers risk their lives to save alien civilians they had never met before. She had seen human doctors work for days without sleep to treat injured aliens. She had observed human engineers give up their own projects to help alien colonies solve technical problems. They don't conquer, she wrote in her final report to the Galactic Council. They inspire. They don't rule. They teach others to fight. In just 3 years, they have turned the Outer Rim from struggling colonies into a military and economic powerhouse that rivals our combined strength. As her ship left human space, Hygiene looked back at the thriving colonies and felt a chill run through her entire being. The galaxy was about to change forever, and she wasn't sure anyone could stop it. Captain Choi Dong-hyuk was eating breakfast in his quarters aboard the cargo ship Seoul when the emergency broadcast cut through all communication channels. The calm voice of Proxima Station's AI filled every speaker in the system. Mayday, Mayday. Proxima Station under attack by Kethmore forces. 12,000 civilians in immediate danger, requesting immediate assistance from any available vessels. Dong-hyuk dropped his coffee cup and ran to the bridge. Lieutenant Nam Eugene was already at her station, her face pale as she watched the tactical display. How bad is it? Dong-hyuk asked. 30 Kethmore warships, Eugene replied. They're demanding the station surrender all alien refugees for slavery processing. The station's shields are failing. Dong-hyuk looked at the pathetic human fleet scattered throughout the system. The Seoul was a converted cargo hauler. The Taegu was a mining ship. The Ulsan was an old passenger transport. None of them were built for fighting. What about Council forces? He asked, though he already knew the answer. 6 days minimum response time, Eugene said quietly. The Kethmore will have finished enslaving everyone by then. On the view screen, Proxima Station looked like a small city floating in space. It housed researchers from 47 different species, including thousands of refugees who had fled Kethmore oppression. Dong-hyuk had friends on that station. Dr. Han Mi-young ran the medical center there. Engineer Song Min-soo managed the power systems. The Kethmore were notorious throughout the galaxy. They were large, brutal creatures who believed other species existed only to serve them. They had turned slavery into an art form, breaking the spirits of entire civilizations. Captain, came a voice from the engine room. Lim Jae-sung, their chief engineer, sounded worried. We're miners and cargo haulers, not soldiers. Our weapons are mining lasers and loading equipment. Dong-hyuk watched as another section of Proxima Station's shields flickered and died. Escape pods were launching, but the Kethmore ships were capturing them all. Then we'll use what we have, Dong Hyuk said quietly. Sir, all ships. This is the Soul. Dong Hyuk broadcast on the emergency frequency. Form up on me. We're going in. Captain Choi, this is madness, replied Captain Park from the Taegu. We'll all be killed. Maybe, Dong Hyuk said, but those are our people on that station. One by one, the human ships acknowledged his orders. 13 cargo haulers, mining vessels, and passenger transports began moving toward the massive Kethmore fleet. The battle that followed became legend throughout the galaxy. The Soul went in first, using its cargo loading arms to grab shipping containers and hurl them at enemy ships like massive bullets. The containers, filled with metal ore, punched through Kethmore armor like it was paper. The mining ship Taegu used its rock-cutting lasers to slice through enemy hulls. Captain Park discovered that weapons designed to cut through asteroids worked very well on spaceship armor. The passenger transport Olsen became a rescue ship, using its large cargo bays to collect escape pods while its construction mechs welded enemy weapon ports shut. But it was the Soul that made the biggest impact. Dong Hyuk piloted his cargo ship straight into the heart of the Kethmore formation, ramming smaller vessels, and using his ship's industrial equipment as weapons. Jae-sung, I need more power to the loading arms. Dong Hyuk called his engineer. Captain, I'm giving you everything we have. But these systems weren't designed for combat. They are now. The Kethmore had superior technology in numbers, but they had never faced anything like human creativity in battle. Their weapons were designed to fight traditional warships, not cargo haulers that grabbed their ships with loading arms and threw them into each other. Dr. Han Mi-young coordinated medical teams from the Soul's cargo bay, treating wounded aliens of 17 different species, while the battle raged around them. We need medical supplies from the Kethmore command ship, she announced calmly. Then we'll get them, Dong Hyuk replied, turning his ship toward a massive enemy flagship. The Kethmore commander, a huge creature named Essie Katar, couldn't understand what was happening. His advanced warships were being destroyed by cargo ships and mining equipment. His carefully planned attack had turned into chaos. What are these humans doing? He roared at his tactical officer. They're using cargo containers as projectiles, sir. Their mining lasers are cutting through our armor, and they keep ramming our ships. Impossible. No civilized species fights like this. But 18 minutes after the humans arrived, SEK Tar's entire battle group had surrendered. Half his ships were destroyed or disabled. The rest were captured by construction mechs that had somehow become boarding parties. However, the humans weren't finished. Captain Dong Hyuk forced the surviving Kethmore officers to broadcast an apology to every species they had ever enslaved. He made them sign legal documents promising to pay reparations and never attack civilian targets again. This is Captain Choi Dong Hyuk to Proxima Station, he announced. The threat has been neutralized. Medical teams are en route. Throughout the galaxy, military leaders watched recordings of the battle in stunned silence. The humans had not just defeated a superior enemy force. They had done it using equipment that wasn't even designed for fighting. More importantly, they had made it look easy. On the bridge of the damaged Soul, Captain Dong Hyuk looked at his tired crew and smiled. They had saved 12,000 innocent lives and sent a message to every slaver in the galaxy. He had no idea that his victory had just terrified every major civilization in known space. The Great Council Chamber had never been so full. Representatives from all 12 major civilizations filled the floating seats, their voices creating a buzz of nervous energy that echoed off the crystal walls. High Counselor Veldar called for silence with trembling hands. Ambassador Oh Sung-ho sat alone in the center of the chamber, representing all humanity before the galaxy's most powerful leaders. His calm expression made the surrounding aliens even more nervous. Behind him, holographic displays showed human colonies spreading across the outer rim like wildfire. This emergency session will come to order, Veldar announced. His blue skin had turned pale, and his forearms shook slightly. We are here to discuss the human problem. Oh raised his hand politely. With respect, Counselor, we prefer to think of it as a human solution. Angry murmurs filled the chamber. The crystalline representative from the Silicon Collective spoke first, its voice ringing like broken glass. In 3 years, you have completely destabilized our carefully maintained balance of power. How? Oh, ask simply. Counselor Zektar activated the main display. Images of human colonies appeared in the air above the chamber. Look at these worlds. 3 years ago, they were empty death worlds that nobody wanted. Now they are military and economic powerhouses. The display showed Kepler, 438b, where humans had built cities inside volcanoes. Wolf 1061c, where they lived under kilometers of ice. Glee 667cc, where they floated in poisonous clouds. Each world now housed millions of beings from dozens of species. You call it helping. Continued the plant-like representative from the Helix Consortium. But every world you touch becomes stronger, more independent, more dangerous to our established order. O stood up slowly. Is making people stronger a crime now? When it threatens galactic stability, yes, shouted the energy being from the ethereal dominion. Dr. Yoon Hai-Jin stepped forward, her tentacles curling with nervousness. As the Council's expert on human psychology, she had spent months studying their behavior. May I present my findings? The chamber fell quiet. Everyone knew that Hai-Jin's research would determine humanity's fate. Humans are unique in the galaxy, she began. Every other intelligent species evolved as prey animals. We developed big brains to hide from predators, to run from danger, or to negotiate our way out of trouble. Humans evolved as predators who learned to cooperate. The display changed to show human diplomatic ships. These vessels appeared to be peaceful transports. In reality, they are disguised warships capable of devastating any fleet in the galaxy. Gasps echoed through the chamber. O's expression didn't change. Furthermore, Hai-Jin continued. Human aid workers are actually military advisors teaching primitive species advanced warfare tactics. Their scientists share technology that makes their alien partners significantly more dangerous. The evidence was overwhelming. Human doctors who taught alien medics how to treat species they had never encountered. Human engineers who helped alien colonies build fusion reactors and warp drives. Human teachers who showed alien children how to solve problems their parents couldn't imagine. But the greatest threat, Hai-Jin said, her voice dropping to a whisper, is their philosophy. She activated a recording of Captain Choi Dong-hyuk from the Proxima Station incident. His calm voice filled the chamber. We believe everyone deserves a chance to be strong enough to protect themselves. If we can help them get there faster, why wouldn't we? They don't see the galaxy as a competition where one species wins and others lose, Hai-Jin explained. They genuinely want universal prosperity. They share their technology freely, without patents or licensing fees. They give away secrets that took them centuries to develop. Counselor Thane of the Zephyrin Collective spoke up. What you're describing sounds admirable. Why should we fear generosity? Because it works. Veldar exploded. Look at the Outer Rim territories. 3 years ago, they begged us for protection and aid. Now they don't need us at all. Piracy has dropped to zero in human space. Trade flows freely without our regulations. Scientific advancement has accelerated beyond anything we've ever seen. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Some representatives defended the humans, while others demanded immediate action. O waited patiently for the noise to die down. You may speak, Veldar said coldly. O stood up and looked around the chamber. You're afraid we'll change things. You're absolutely right. We will change everything. The only question is whether you want to help us build something better or try to stop progress because it threatens your power. Your progress threatens galactic stability, accused the Kethmore representative, one of the few species that still supported slavery. No, O replied quietly. Our progress threatens your ability to control others. There's a difference. The debate continued for hours. Some species defended humanity's right to help others, but the majority feared what would happen if humans continued their expansion. Finally, Veldar called for the vote. All in favor of Resolution 847 Omega, permanently banning military, economic, and technological alliances with the Human Confederacy? The vote was closer than expected, but the result was clear. 8 species voted in favor, 4 abstained. The resolution passes, Veldar announced. No council member may form alliances with humanity. Violators will face immediate expulsion and economic sanctions. O nodded slowly and began walking toward the exit. As he reached the door, he turned back to face the chamber. 47 species have already told me they're leaving the council rather than abandon their human friends, he said calmly. By tomorrow, it'll probably be more. The chamber fell silent as the implication sank in. The council was about to lose nearly half its members. O smiled sadly. You could have been part of something wonderful. Instead, you chose to be left behind. The door closed behind him with a soft hiss. High Counselor Veldar sat alone in his private office, staring at the reports scattered across his desk. 5 years had passed since Resolution 847 Omega banned alliances with humans. The numbers on the pages told a story that made his 4 hands tremble. The Free Worlds Coalition now controlled nearly half the galaxy. What had started with 47 species, leaving the council, had grown into something that kept Veldar awake at night. 233 species now flew the coalition's simple white flag with its circle of stars representing unity and cooperation. A soft chime announced an incoming transmission. Captain Song Min-Su's face appeared in the holographic display, broadcasting from just outside council space. The human looked tired but determined. High Counselor, Min-Su said respectfully, the coalition fleet is standing by to assist with the Zephyrian refugee crisis. We have medical ships, food supplies, and temporary housing ready. We ask nothing in return except permission to help. Veldar closed the transmission without responding. The Zephyrian homeworld had been destroyed by a solar flare 3 days ago. 2 million refugees were fleeing in damaged ships, desperate for sanctuary. The council was still forming committees to discuss the proper response. The humans had mobilized their entire rescue fleet within hours. Through his office window, Veldar could see the massive council station that had once been the center of galactic civilization. Half the docking bays were empty now. Trade ships that once brought goods from across the galaxy had found better deals in Coalition space. His personal assistant, a nervous creature from the Silicon Collective, entered with more bad news. Sir, 3 more species have announced their intention to leave the Council this week. The Helix Consortium, the Outer Rim Alliance, and the Independent Worlds Federation. Why? Veldar asked, though he already knew the answer. The same reason as all the others, sir. They say the Coalition offers them better protection, fairer trade deals, and faster aid in emergencies. Veldar dismissed his assistant and activated his personal computer. The intelligence reports painted a picture of a galaxy that was changing faster than anyone had predicted. In Coalition space, piracy had become extinct. Human response fleets arrived within hours of any distress call, and their reputation for overwhelming force had convinced most criminals to find other careers. Trade flowed freely without the complex regulations and licensing fees that the Council had spent centuries perfecting. The scientific advancement was even more impressive. Coalition worlds shared research freely, leading to breakthrough discoveries every month. They had developed new medical treatments, improved fusion reactors, and faster warp drives. All of this technology was given away to anyone who asked for it. Most disturbing of all, it was working perfectly. A priority alert flashed on Veldar's screen. The Kethmore hegemony, one of the Council's most powerful military members, was requesting emergency assistance. Their slave worlds were in open rebellion, inspired by coalition broadcasts that promised freedom and protection to anyone who fought for it. Veldar remembered when the Kethmore had seemed unstoppable. Their massive fleets had conquered dozens of worlds, enslaving entire civilizations. Now they were begging the Council for help against their own former slaves. The rebellion was being led by former slaves who had somehow acquired advanced weapons and training. Intelligence reports suggested human military advisors were involved, though no proof could be found. The coalition officially denied any involvement while continuing to broadcast educational programs about democracy and freedom. Another transmission request appeared on Veldar's screen. This time it was from Ambassador Kim Taeho, the human who now served as the coalition's diplomatic representative. Counselor Veldar, Kim said with genuine warmth. "I wanted to personally invite you to visit our headquarters on New Geneva. I think you would be impressed by what we've accomplished together." The transmission included footage from coalition worlds. Veldar watched as humans and aliens worked side by side in massive construction projects. Children from dozens of species played together in parks. Former enemies shared meals and laughed at each other's jokes. "We're not trying to replace the Council," Kim continued. "We're just showing that there's a better way to do things. A way based on cooperation instead of control, on helping instead of ruling." Veldar turned off the transmission and walked to his window. In the distance, he could see the emergency lights flashing on the refugee processing station. Zephyrian ships were arriving faster than the Council's bureaucracy could handle them. His communication system chimed with another urgent message. The ethereal Dominion was formally requesting permission to provide humanitarian aid to the refugees. They wanted to work with coalition medical teams to save lives. It was the beginning of the end, and Veldar knew it. The Council had been built on the idea that galactic civilization required careful control and complex regulations. Every decision had to be debated. Every action had to be approved by committees. Every change had to be gradual and carefully managed. The humans had proven that this was all unnecessary. They solved problems by actually solving them, not by forming committees to discuss them. They helped people because helping people was the right thing to do, not because regulations required it. They shared their success because they believed everyone deserved to be successful. As report of another Council world requesting coalition membership crossed his desk, Veldar finally understood the terrible truth. The Council hadn't been wrong to fear humans. They had simply feared them for the wrong reasons. Humans weren't dangerous because they were violent or cruel. They were dangerous because they made everyone around them better, stronger, and more independent. And eventually, no one would need the Council's protection anymore. The galaxy was changing, and there was nothing he could do to stop it.